can start. Okay, so good morning, everyone. Good morning, officially. Good morning, Martha. Good morning, Oyin. Thank you so much for accepting this invite and to be part of this amazing session. And I really can't wait for the session to begin because I've been a big fan of data privacy and data protection, and this is a very big part of cybersecurity also. So I'm just going to be introducing myself briefly, and I don't think there is, I don't have much to say because it's not about me today. So my name is Emike Isugi, a cybersecurity analyst, currently specialized in governance, risks, and compliance. I'm also the cybersecurity channel coordinator for SheCode Africa. And if you've not heard about SheCode Africa is a non-government organization aimed at empowering women in tech across Africa. And if you have any woman that wants to join tech, and you can refer her to SheCode Africa. Okay, so we're just going to begin officially. I'm going to be introducing our speakers, and please, you can give them a round of applause. You can drop a reaction as we introduce them. Our first speaker is Martha Njeri. Please, let's just clap for Martha. We can drop a reaction. Thank you, Martha, for joining. And our second speaker is Oyin Olusesi. Please, let's welcome Oyin, and let's also drop a reaction. Thank you so much. Thank you. You can also unmute to talk for a while, just to welcome them, if that's fine. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to be introducing our speakers now. Okay. Martha, I'm going to be introducing Martha first. Martha is a data protection officer and also a governance, risks, and compliance expert with a deep understanding of data privacy frameworks and GRC operations. She has passion for mitigating risks and promoting a privacy culture, security, and also the use of AI within organizations. Thank you, Martha. Okay, and Oyin is the lead legal services and data protection officer at Cora, a Pan-African payments company that enables local and global businesses to sell, build, and scale with bespoke payment solutions. As a data protection, privacy, and ISMS professional, Oyin has an extensive background advising startups on setting up data protection compliance systems, carrying out data protection impact assessments, and ensuring compliance with relevant data protection laws and regulations, including the GDPR, CCPA, and the NDPR. He is a certified information privacy professional and holds the lead auditor ISMS 27001 certification. He has worked with startups across Africa, Europe, North America on issues relating to regulatory compliance, data protection, licensing, corporate governance, and general startup advisory. Besides law, Oyin has a neat interest in writing, teaching, traveling, and playing drafts. Oh, thank you so much, Oyin. That was a very interesting biography, and I'm very excited. Okay, so yeah, we're starting now, and let's get comfortable. So we're going to start our questions now. Hi, Martha. Hi, Oyin. Please, you can unmute now.
Hi, Emike. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Oyin. Are you still on the call?
Yeah, hi, Emike. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me.
Okay, You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so we're just going to start now, and okay. I would say I'm a bit tensed. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just so anxious, but okay, let's start now. Okay. I would like to hear from you, Oyi. How did you start your career as a data protection officer? Reading your biography, you have such a very good experience. And we'd like to know how you started your career as a data protection officer, because I'm sure there are people on this call that are looking for how to navigate that career path and want to dive into data protection, being a data protection officer. So we'd like to know how you started your career as a data protection officer. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Emike. Hi, everyone. Good morning. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. Just to also say as well that you don't need to be tensed, and I think it's quite normal, So as we progress, the nerves will come. All right. So the question, how did I start? I think that's a better question because um if you were to advise somebody else that wants to get in the space, I don't know how I would advise or I would go about that. But I can speak to my own story because I was an active participant, in it at the beginning. So I started out working in a law firm, and the law firm is tech focused. So we mostly advise tech companies, but across different facets of tech. So health tech, fintech, all the tech that you can, insure tech, all of them that you can find. And one of the intricate aspects of technology law is data protection and privacy. Now, in my final year in school, or in my 300 level actually, in school, I attended the University of Lagos. I started getting fascinated with technology, particularly artificial intelligence. So I sort of had this mind state that I wanted to know about the technology of the future. So I was doing my research then, and I realized that AI was going to be a big thing in the future. So I started reading a lot about it. But along the way, as you do more research, you figure out new areas or new areas that are adjacent to the area that you are researching about. So that was how I came about data protection, because it has always been touted as a very big deal, in the coming of AI. So my love or my interest in AI, sorry, in data protection was actually adjacent to my interest in artificial intelligence. Then when I joined this firm, when I finished law school, obviously there was no artificial intelligence. So the love for artificial intelligence, or the interest in artificial intelligence, was being replaced at the time by fintech, actually right from my law school days. So I was one of those guys who knew to a very high degree of certainty what they really wanted to do. And I was very lucky. I just got right into it. So from final year to law school, I was clear I wanted to do fintech. This law firm was very big on fintech. We had some of the big boys, the Team App, the Piggyvest, and the Mono and the rest of them. So, but doing fintech law required the knowledge of data protection. And the firm wasn't really doing it at the time, but it was something that our clients were asking for. And this was something I'd been interested and been reading about anyways. So what I did, and I think this is the part that will be relevant to people who are also interested in starting. What I did was to read everything that I could find. Sorry about that. What I did was to read everything that I could find about data protection, so essentially just making sure that any material that I could find online, any material that I could find anywhere, I was just reading everything about data protection. And then along the line, I started picking up mentors here and there. So I was reaching out so I'm somebody who maximized technology early enough, right? At least as early as I could find it. So LinkedIn, I'd been using LinkedIn to reach out to people since my 200 level, 300 level days, so always 300 level, 400 level actually. So I would reach out to people. I don't know this thing. Could you please explain to me? I want to know more about this. Could you please mentor me? And the interesting thing is that, on an aside, the interesting thing is that a lot of the people that, at least like 80% of the people that I reached out to, then either asking for mentorship or something, we either eventually worked together, and or we either eventually worked together, or they were coming back to me to ask me for some kind of clarification in the space, and then we now jam on LinkedIn. Oh, so I've also reached there before as well. Very interesting turn of events. But yeah, I would reach out, and that was how I got introduced to IAPP, and some of the materials, that the newsletters, blogs, and all those things. So that really helped. Then I was also fortunate that the NDPR was made at about the time that I was just getting started, in the practice. I was called in 2019, and NDPR was 2019. Yeah. So we reviewed it, dissected it, and all of those things. Then active participants in the NDPA in 2023. But yeah, I think starting out was mostly just about bootstrapping it. Just read as much as you can find online, then reach out to people who are knowledgeable in the space, or that you think are knowledgeable in the space, ask them questions, engage them, read newsletters, just essentially read everything you can find, watch YouTube videos, and attend webinars like this, where you can also find people who will be able to share their knowledge on how they started, and hopefully maybe even sometimes share materials that will be helpful to you. So I think that sums up my starting out and how I found myself here eventually.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much, Oyin. Thank you. That was a very interesting one. And I think I took note of a few things. Firstly, you've always been a big boy. Okay. Yes. And another thing I took note of was you said you were reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I sometimes I think people don't really understand how LinkedIn is very important and how networking is also important. When I started my career, or when I wanted to move to tech, because I studied history and international studies, I didn't study anything that has to do with cybersecurity in school. I think LinkedIn really helped me. I was able to connect, network with people, seek advice. I was confused at the point, but it's really helped me. So I would like to just encourage everyone, please try to use LinkedIn for your advantage as much as you can. Network with people, connect with people, even though they are CISOs, CEOs. As far as you know, you can learn from them and they have what you need. Please network with them. You can also connect with on LinkedIn. I think I'll drop. Please, can you drop your LinkedIn profile on the link to your LinkedIn profile on the chat so they can
No
connect with
problem.
you.
No problem.
So I think LinkedIn is also very good. Make research, a lot of things I think I learned on my own. And that was even how I joined She Code Africa. I was just researching. I just wanted to be part of a tech community. I just wanted to just do something and build my skills and enhance my knowledge in this field. And that was how I found She Code Africa, joined and became the cybersecurity channel coordinator. A lot of people I've met in this space. I don't think I've even seen them physically. We just meet on LinkedIn, we chat, or on X. Yes, also X is a very, very, very important part. If you're on X, try to the cybersecurity community is very, very large there, and it's very encouraging and welcoming too. So try to join the cybersecurity community on X. Don't just go to X to go and banter. Try to join the cybersecurity community there. There are a lot of free boot camps you can join and to build your skills and your knowledge. Thank you so much, Oyin. We're moving to Martha now. Martha, can you just give us a brief introduction of how I think I found Martha on LinkedIn, and ever since then I've been glued to her page because she's always dropping 1 or 2 updates every day, every single day. And Martha, thank you so much, because I think it has helped shape my career. It's also helped shape me building my skills. Thank you so much. I found you on LinkedIn. Unfortunately, you joined the community, and thank you. So Martha, please, can you just give us a brief introduction of how you started your career in this field? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for having me here, MK. So mine, actually, I have a background in accounting. I believe let me start there first. So I'm not a lawyer by profession. And also, I don't have a background in computer science, but I found myself here. So this is how it started. I started out in forensic accounting, and it was a consulting company. So while consulting, sometimes we'll be required to conduct compliance audits, or especially in the tech field. So I'll always volunteer to just be the extra person that gets to work with the digital forensic team or the tech compliance team. So I came to fall in love a lot with compliance, and my industry focus at the time was financial institutions. So that is insurance companies and banks. And one thing about banks or financial institutions generally is that everything about them is systemized, for lack of a better word. From the only point where there is manual collection of data is at the start. Once it's collected, everything else is fed on the system, and everything else works through the system. So many system integrations. Now that's how I started, just loving compliance. Then I just decided to move into risk and compliance in banking. And that is when I fell in love with data protection, anything IT governance. At that point, I didn't have a name for it, just compliance. So compliance in banking is very wide. We have the anti-money laundering. We have, there are so many rules that govern banking. I would even say every department has a rule or a regulation that it adheres to. But now being in the risk and compliance team, that meant that you're like the watchdog. You look at the data protection is under risk and compliance. The IT compliance, they may be different, but you also review their work sometimes. And then now it comes to the financial crime control, all that. So while I was there, I started studying data protection. I just got an interest on data protection. And then, the beauty about data protection is the tech aspect. I never thought I could fall in love with tech or anything tech, but the more I studied, the more I got into data protection, the more I loved it. So now on that, I also got into cybersecurity. And okay, I read a lot. When you're starting out, you tend to read widely without really direction. So you're just trying to see where you land. So now after some time, I got into the Cyber Girls Fellowship. The first part of the fellowship, you do everything cybersecurity. It's quite rigorous, actually. And then after that, now you go to your specialization. So my specialization was definitely GRC. Now, while I was doing that, I was also taking up courses in data protection. And I also showed interest of data protection at my workplace. And then 1 year into my role, an opportunity showed up. The DPO, the current DPO left. Oh, and I also didn't mention, I made friends with the company DPOs. She would give me a heads up on several things. So from a practical point of view, I would get to understand things that I have learned in my certifications and my courses. Another thing I also did was getting into groups of privacy professionals and cybersecurity professionals, anything tech and anything data protection. One thing about data protection is that it's a nexus of the law, compliance, and IT, I would say. So you're like the middle ground. So you have to understand the legal and you have to understand the technology aspect of things, especially if you're working for an industry that utilizes systems. So now with the people around me, the groups I got into, and taking part in webinars, attending organizations, making friends in the industry, people who would come back and ask questions about this and this and this, the best way to learn, especially when you don't have experience, you can learn from the experience of other people. And also the company DPO at the time. So that's how I actually found myself in my current role when it was when the opportunity presented itself. So that is how I got here. Now, one thing, despite I know having a legal background is not quite okay. For some, it depends with the company. For some companies, it's a prerequisite. For others, it's not. But you must understand the legal aspect of data protection. You must understand cyber laws. You have to understand tech, anything that governs tech generally. And then the other thing you also have to understand is the technology you're using, the processes in the company. So, like now in my case, banking has so many departments. We have the operations department, we have the procurement, internal audit. There are so many. You have to understand the processes in each and every department, because then when you understand them, that's when you're able to understand any compliance gaps that may be there, what needs to be done, what the law says. Because when you look at data protection laws, they're not very direct. They'll tell you what you ought to do, but it's for you to interpret it and put it into action. So you have to understand things on both a theoretical level and a practical level. So technically, that's how I got here. The learning doesn't stop. The sharing doesn't stop. Because tech, there's so many things coming up. Now we also have AI. So AI GRC is also a very good field. So yeah, that's how I got here.
Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. That was a very interesting one. And I think there's one thing that we have in common is that we don't have a tech background. You said you studied accounting, forensic accounting. That's very good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Martha. Okay. We'll be moving into the next question now. If you have questions, please just take note of your questions. So at the end of the session, you can ask your questions. Okay, so I'll be moving to Onyi now. Okay. Am I still audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'll be moving to Onyi now.
But you have an echo.
Yes, sorry. Right. Okay. Okay, yes, that's sorted. Okay, so thank you so much, Martha. Thank you, Onyi, for telling us about your background and how you started your career in data protection. And it's a very interesting one and very peculiar to me too, because I don't have a tech background, but yes, researching and connecting with people also helped me. And you also mentioned that you joined Cyber Girls. Yes. So joining She Code Africa and some other boot camps also helped me in my cybersecurity journey and has been helping me too. Okay, so only moving to this next question. I would like to know why is data privacy critical in today's digital age?
All right, thanks. So that's a very interesting question, and I think the reason is multifaceted, but I'll pick it from the very top, which is that, or from the very bottom, which is that the entirety of digital technology is anchored on the availability of data, right? So digital technology, and you name it, especially when you start thinking about more contemporary innovations like the Web 2, Web 3, AI, everything automation, Internet of Things, and things like that. They are all anchored on technology, on data. So there has to be data that is being granulated at a very high speed for this technology to work. So you need your fintech app to be able to access your BVN, validate that you have money in your account with bank A, for you to be able to send money to somebody that has money in bank B. And the money you'd expect that for you to have comfort that the transaction has been effectively consummated, you want to receive an alert that your account has been debited, so the money has moved. And for the other person to trust that you're not trying to bobo them, in the local Nigerian parlance. In other words, they are not trying to play a fast one on them. They also need to receive a credit alert. And all of that is made possible by data, right? If you move away from there and you talk about AI, and you are wondering, oh, why am I able to chat and then AI is able to respond to me, ChatGPT is able to respond to me like a human being, give me very good responses in real time and all of that. That is also made possible by AI. So everything that is in the digital economy is anchored on AI. So AI is anchored on data. So data is very, very critical, very important. And it's because of that importance, we need to also understand how there has to be responsible usage around the data. Otherwise, everybody will just use the data anyhow. Comes in data protection and privacy. So this is the area that, because data is more than just information about you. Actually, information about you research has shown that information about a person is synonymous to their being, right? Because the disclosure and access to that information can determine a lot of things: their mental health, their safety and security, their pressure level, their happiness, their mood, what they buy, what they do, how they sleep, everything, right? So that is why privacy and data protection is very important, because it's not just about, oh, you cannot use this data, oh, you cannot get this data, you need my consent. Okay, well, I've gotten your consent now, so all is fair and good. No, it's about ensuring that even after you have my consent, there's still responsible use of that data. You don't share the data with somebody that will harm me, and there is subjective and objective harm. So there is a Carlos theory of harm, which says that privacy harms can either be subjective or objective. And subjective harm is harm that has already materialized. Objective harm is harm that has materialized. Subjective harm, on the other end, is harm that is yet to materialize, but you have a either reasonable or foreseeable fear that it will happen. So the job of privacy professionals is to ensure that you factor in all these potential harms, right? Understand the context of them and be able to protect against them. So it's not just about one side of the equation, where, for example, you contextualize and say, oh, who are the people that can be affected by this? Our customers. So we protect the right of our customers. When you dig deep into the privacy world, you realize that when you are plotting your parties at risk, or the individuals at risk, you realize that it's not just the first person, it's not just your customer alone. You have to look at the entire stakeholder ecosystem, right? The direct stakeholders, the indirect stakeholders, the bystanders, the everybody. In this case, that would include your own direct customers, the people who would use the product, their family members, their suppliers, their partners, and all of those things. So you cannot just say, because the person chatting with ChatGPT is already warned that the responses may not be accurate, you then do not care, or the responses may be potentially used for something harmful. You don't then care about the fact that they can copy what ChatGPT is teaching them and use it to go and harm their family members. For example, somebody puts in a question and says, how can I kill my mother? And then the bot responds and says, to kill your mother, put what's that very harmful insecticide pesticide in Nigeria? I can't remember the name of this sniper. Yeah, sniper is what I'm trying to remember. So you put sniper in hard water in the morning, right? And then there's now a disclaimer that says, do not follow this do not please take caution in following this as it may contain harmful instructions, and then you're fine. So you now think that because you already put that disclaimer, you have a good privacy or data protection practice. No, you don't, right? Or you have a good trust and safety practice. No, you don't. Because that information could harm somebody else that is not a direct person interacting with your platform. And it's the same thing with privacy as well. The fact that you, in your own organization, you have a very solid encryption, pseudonymization, anonymization process, and you do not care, and then you've disclosed it in your privacy notice that, oh, we share your information with partners. These are the partners. These are their privacy notices. These are the documents relating to their privacy policy. Please make sure that you understand that we are not responsible for the practices of our partners. So you feel like you have a good privacy practice? The answer is no. Because as a good privacy professional, you need to be able to also assess that the third parties that you are sharing your customer data with, that they have a good privacy practice, and they will be able to protect that data in the manner that is reasonable and efficient under the required standards and regulations. That is when you can now begin to say, okay, maybe there's a good privacy practice here. So overall, to sum it up, the importance of privacy, data protection, and data itself, in this age is that it affects just beyond not allowing somebody data. The availability of our data is beyond not allowing a third party, an unsanctioned third party, to know about us or about that particular information. It is also about the potential usage of that data that could cause either subjective or objective harm to every one of us. And subjective harm could go as far as mental health issues, lack of confidence in oneself, and even in some instances that we've also found, breakage of homes and families and all of that. So it's very critical that every organization understands how the kind of data that they have, and also how they use them. And on the other side of things, it's also important for us as data subjects or the users of platforms to also understand as best as we can the privacy considerations that each organization has put in place relative to the kind of data that we provide to them. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oyin. Thank you. Thank you so much. You spoke about the organizational aspects. I think there's one thing that baffles me today, right? I think sometimes you go out. I think I've seen a lot online, just from my perspective. And when you get home, maybe you had an issue with someone on the road, and when you get home, you find out that your pictures, your videos are all over the internet. Can we also put this in the individual aspects? Like, can we also shift the focus from the organizational aspect to us as individuals too?
Okay, yes. Let me be sure that I got your question. The question is that, can we as individuals also have also be responsible for protecting the privacy of other people? Is that the question?
Yes, definitely.
Yes, and I think the analogy that you give is very instructive, because that is something that I really fear. I joke within my circles with my friends that one of my biggest fears is having a private moment, and then I go on Twitter or on social media and I find it there. In those days, right? And in those days will sound like such a long time ago, but in those days is such a recent time. In those days is as recent as 2020, 2021. 2025 might soon be in those days by 2026, or January 2025 might soon be in those days by December 2025. So what is in those days is fast changing. Anyways, once upon a time, your fear was, the chances that your private moment will be caught online as a random citizen right, was very slim. So somebody like me, nobody knows me, nobody really cares about me except my family and friends, right? I should have no reason to be worried that I would come online and find that people are discussing my matter, right? But today you never can tell, right? You are just playing with your you're playing dumb and maybe foolery within your circle, and then somebody is across the room or across the street taking a video of you and puts it with a totally different context online. And then we all know how Twitter is, and then Twitter begins to analyze, psychoanalyze, socio-analyze your life and everything about you. And you then begin to wonder, what exactly is the infringement there? Is that defamation? Is that infringement of your privacy? And then you find that there are different legal issues lumped together in that. So for example, there is the one about the person posting the video, whether the person has the right to take your video and post it. Then on the IP end, I'm sure that for some of us who are lawyers here, you know that on the IP side of things, the argument is totally different, because the person who takes a video or takes a picture or creates, because in that case they'll be deemed to be creating an artistic or a work of art, the person is deemed to own that piece. So ownership. So you cannot say that that person should delete it. You may not be able to say that person should delete it. Why? Because they own it. But under privacy, it's a totally different conversation as well, because that is me. That is an unsanctioned capture of my private moment. So I should have the right to tell you to delete it. Now, and then some other people would say, oh, defamation. Do you have the intention to actually put that person to ridicule? That's also a conversation that needs to be had. So just without thinking deep at all, there are already several issues lumped together in that very simple scenario, right? And that is the world that we find ourselves in, the digital space. And it's now going to be a conversation around ranking them and who is going to be responsible for what. So because it's a conversation about privacy, and the question is also about privacy, I'm just going to limit. I had to give that context so that it's very clear that there are so many angles that, and I'm sure that if we get the lawyers in the room now to start analyzing that situation, there probably would be a ton of other context that we can draw from that. But from a privacy perspective, yes, it's very important that everybody respects the privacy of the other person in the room. And I think it reeks of, it's very unfair to capture somebody else's private, whether private or public moment, except they invite you to do that, or they do it in such a way as it is reasonable to expect that that moment will make for public discourse. Then it's flat out unfair and inhumane to capture that and put it and begin to disseminate that information. That on one end. On the other side of things is also that we should also know that such moments, such incidents can also have legal consequences, because as the person who disseminates that information, I can actually come after you for invasion of my privacy. So for example, we found instances where people are eating at a restaurant and something is happening amongst friends on a single table, and then people just pick out their phones and start recording and start creating agenda. We've also found instances where a moment within a family, maybe there's a scuffle going on within a father and the child in their house, and a neighbor picks the phone from a totally different building, zooms in because they're using Samsung or iPhone, and then they post it online. We've also had instances where people are having private moments in their room, and because the window is open or something, or the curtains are not, drawn, somebody picks the phone, they zoom it in, and you don't even know where the person taking your video is coming from, right? So all these things, have mental effects, on other people, and we just need to be responsible. And this is why, to just somewhat my recommendation would be, this is why it's very important that we have a lot of education, especially some things fora like this, because people need to understand the responsible use of data and social media platforms. People need to know that just because you have a phone, just because you want to trend and you want to create content, you do not need to and should not do that at the expense of other people, because these things have real life consequences. And let me tell you, I worry so much about this, especially for me, my friends, and because before the real context of the behind the story comes out, the agenda has already agended, and it is usually the voice of the person who brings the story first that is listened to, the person who posts the picture first, the person who who tweets about it first, the person who breaks the news first, not really the person who owns that story. And sometimes you find people who spend the rest of their lives, defending or explaining away the fact that no, that thing was taken out of context. So there has to be responsible use of social media, responsible use of data, even as personal, even in our personal capacity. And lastly, we need to understand that there are legal consequences for these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oyin. Thank you so much. I feel like I can relate with this a lot, especially in today's age. Everybody is a content creator. Everybody wants to be an aspiring content creator. So, and according to what you said, agenda must agenda. That's very true. So, thank you so much for this. I really one of the reasons why I brought this question of why I wanted you to shed more light into this is because number one, you are a lawyer, and please, you can contact him, please, if you have any issues. Thank you. And also, you have a very extensive knowledge in data protection. So combining that, so thank you so much, Onyi. I don't know. I think most people here, I don't know if you've ever been a victim of that. You just go online, find your videos. I think one of my friends was a victim, and ever since then, it has been very, very crazy. And most people don't understand these implications of what they do to other people. So thank you so much, Onyi. I really, really appreciate the way you answered that question, and thank you for shedding more light. And if you don't mind, I think this is something that we need to dwell in so much. I would like to also invite you for another session to properly explain this extensively. Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. So we're moving to the next question, and Martha, this question is for you. So for Nigeria, right? We have NDPR. Ghana, you're from Ghana, and Ghana also has their own data protection regulation. So I would like to ask, how has the regulatory landscape helped improve data protection? You can put the Ghana data regulation in perspective. Thank you.
Actually, I'm from Kenya.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so sorry.
So in Kenya, we have the Kenya Data Protection Act. And with the act, the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner was established. So it's more like the authority. It's under the Ministry of ICT, but then again, it works as a court on its own. It monitors the compliance and also gives determinations. Now, your question is how the data protection laws have helped in data protection, right? Did I get that right?
Yes, for Kenya.
Okay, so I'll give in the context of Kenya. So with the office and with the act in place, the office has gone ahead to establish regulations, more like guidelines that guide the implementation of this Data Protection Act into companies or day-to-day operations of organizations. Now, the other thing that the ODPC has been doing is awareness. The first thing has been awareness, actually, running awareness campaigns where they do train people. They also take like tours, in quotes, whereby they ensure that they sensitize the citizens on their rights, on their data protection rights. Because again, it goes to, we can have an act, but for it to be fully adhered to, especially by companies, I do believe that the data subjects in this case, the people whose data is being processed, utilized, stored, they have to be aware of their rights. They have to be aware of what they should expect of these companies. So it was enacted actually in 2019, but it started being talked about during the COVID era, and then now it sprout in 2022. So the other key thing that has been there beyond the training and awareness, it has been audits. So the ODPC, we call it the ODPC, Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, has been conducting audits on companies, on key companies for a start, because now companies in the healthcare, the financial institutions, education sectors, non-governmental. So they conduct audits whereby they come and assess whether you're compliant. Now, the thing about these audits is that they're not meant to penalize unless you're intentionally going against the laws stipulated on the act or the instructions stipulated on the general regulations, but they're meant to act as a guide and to also act as a gap analysis for the companies. Then the other thing it has done, and not just private sector, but also the government sector. So the county governments, here we have county governments, more like states, I believe, in Nigeria. So the other thing, and this is the one that has been so effective, is penalizing companies that go against the rights of the data subjects or those that go against the instructions given under the general regulations. So technically, over the past 2 years, we have seen determinations where companies have been fined. We have seen cases where they have been penalized. For most of them, it's always data subject rights. So what happens actually is that the whole aspect of reporting, it's a very transparent one. If you're a data subject, you can report a company that you feel is not handling your data in the way that it should be handled. The company is given a chance to defend itself and to provide several things that are requested. And you're also supposed to, like share the burden of more like proof your case. So once that is done, in a span of 3 months, that case is concluded, a determination is given. And that has been, I would say so far, it has been the best working tool, I would say so. Because with those cases now, okay, well, for some people, yes, people are saying it's an opportunity to cash in. So now people are interested in knowing what does the Data Protection Act talk about? And then when it comes to companies, this is a reputation hazard. Having yourself, that when their determination is passed, your name is plastered everywhere that this and this has been passed and you have been penalized in this and this way. So nobody wants to suffer that reputation risk, because the monies, I would say, they're not so much. It's like 250,000 Kenya shillings. Okay, for a big bank, they can manage that. But now when it comes to the reputation risk you suffer, it could be detrimental and it could affect so many stakeholders, because again, organizations are ecosystems. So now with that, it has made companies tighten up the compliance grip. You want to do it right, and not just right, and not just responding to to data subject requests, but also compliance. Because when a complaint is lodged, the ODPC has to come and conduct an investigation at your place. So I would say, just to sum it up, one, the determinations have helped a lot here. Second, the Act and the regulations and all the guidelines have also come in to provide a very good guide on how companies can adopt these. They've also created jobs. I mean, we now have the position of a DPO, which is in our country, it's required to be a managerial role. So yeah, I would say creating jobs, creating awareness, making now privacy. Now even the people, you as a data subject, you understand what privacy is. And also it also makes us more wary of how we are giving out our data out there. Gone are the days now you're just leaving your phone number at a document because you're entering a building. You want to know why do you need my email, my phone number, and another phone number for what? So the whole aspect of data protection coming in, I would say it has worked 2 ways, for the data subject as well as for the organizations and even the governments. Training and awareness, the determinations, those are the tricks they have used just to make sure that companies are now taking this seriously.
Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, we'll be moving to the next question. And please, if you have questions, please just take note of the questions. We're almost done with the session. I also have questions, but okay. So, but let's quickly move on. Thank you so much, Martha. Okay. Oyin, I would like to ask you this question, and how do emerging technologies like AI, I think you spoke about that earlier. How do emerging technologies like AI impact data privacy?
All right, thanks for that question. So, various ways. I think the most important is, first of all, that we're still at the early stages, like I keep saying, to to my network. And I think there is actually an abundance of research that agrees that we're still at the early stages. We don't really understand the full ramifications of these technologies yet. That also means that we don't really understand as yet the thorough implications of them on the different areas of our lives, including in various areas of our lives, including privacy and data protection. Right. And but what we know is that emerging technologies will consolidate on the existing technologies to a very greater degree, I think exponential way, than we have ever seen before. And we're already seeing the manifestations of that. So first of all, AI technology processes, LLMs process data at a faster rate, than any other technology before them. So the way AI needs and utilizes data is different from how, like a website or an e-commerce site, or, all those other basic, even blockchain, at the early stages, the way they utilize data. This is a technology that is built mainly squarely to utilize data for a purpose. It's the same way we as human beings were a constellation of data, right? The fact that I'm able to say this is because I'm picking this, I'm processing this from data, which is why you find that machine learning technologies have something called neural network. So the neural network is just a play on the fact that we as human beings also have neurons and all of that. So AI is supposed to, especially AGIs, right? It's supposed to epitomize human interactions, human abilities and capacities. Now, if you deep that, what it really means is that it's supposed to live, exist, survive, thrive on data. The same way every human being here, we live, we survive on data. The fact that you're able to lift your hand is muscle memory. It's because your muscle has carried some data, imbibe them, learned how to do that, and you cannot do it without having to take much thought about it. The fact that you're able to speak, remember your language, speak to your people and all of that is because you've ingested some data and you are granulating and working based on the data that you have ingested. And that is why, just on a lighter note, there are some songs that we sang when we were younger. I'm trying to remember one of them. I can't really remember, but there are some songs that we remember that we sang when we were younger that we grew up to realize that we were singing nonsense. I remember, I think I can't remember the name of the song now, but yeah, so that's just an example of it. So what happened was that initially you fed some data that was wrong, and then you got new data that is right. And it's the same thing with how emerging technologies will work. Your artificial intelligence to your chatbots, all those, the new technology, right? They will feed on data that we give to them. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be just human data. So, for example, there is the application of AI in the automobile industry, for example. which they basically just checks, okay, this car passes this side, runs at this rate, does this, and leverages that to come up with like intuitive suggestions on how to drive, on what you need to do. And so it's not just about human data, but it is data nonetheless. And what we have not been able to really capture, including the regulators and even the practitioners, is what the full ramifications of that would be, what it really would mean for privacy and data protection. But what we need to do is to ensure that we take a posture of care, right, in dealing with this technology. And I'm talking both from the perspective of the users and the perspective of the businesses that are championing this project. So as a user, for example, you need to be careful the tools that you interact with and the kind of data that you feed them with, right? So you don't just carry everything about you and then just put them in your ChatGPT, because what happens is that GPT is in a way an agentic AI that is learning about you. And for example, if you use ChatGPT very well, or DeepSeek, or any of the AIs that you chat with, you can begin to ask it questions that are peculiar and specific to you, that only it could have known based on your interactions on that, as you know, between you and the AI. And you will see that it will be able to give you a response based on that. So imagine that you then give everything about you, your date of birth, your what you like, what you don't like, and then the engineers or the companies behind the models do not have a responsible use policy or process in place, and then they sell that data to an advertising company or another company that can utilize that information to influence the way you live your life. That is one of the risks that we face. And of course, there are other risks as well. Risk of phishing, smishing in the cybersecurity space. And because they become even more rampant these days, you've already chatted with AI, with OpenAI, giving all the information. Then there you are doing giveaway on, or dropping your account number for giveaway on Twitter, then your mother's maiden name and another post, then your father's home address and another post. And then what these agents just do is to coalesce all of this information and then come and use them to influence you. So it becomes more important that even the users of this technology should be very responsible in the way that we use them, study them, identify, as much as possible, the extent to which you want to interact with them. And then, of course, the companies as well also need to have responsible use policy, responsible development policies around how they integrate these technologies into their own system. So I think that, to sum it up, in terms of how it will impact us, we really don't know just yet, or at least I don't just yet. The literature on the technologies do not also give us so much. They give us a lot, but they don't give us so much as to be able to make conclusive, definitive postulations around how this new technology would affect our privacy. But what we know, or what we can guess, is that it will really impact us, right? And we need to brace up for more impact into how this technology would affect us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Oyin. So from what you said, this okay, let me just be professional. Okay, Oyin, I would like to ask, do you have you written articles and newsletters regarding data privacy?
Yes, I do. I actually have a newsletter. It's called the Legal Tech Bro Notes on Substack. But I also have a fintech specific newsletter on LinkedIn. It's called the Legal Tech Bro, the Fintech Side Notes.
Okay. How about you, Martha? Do you have any? And would you like to share with us so we can follow up from here after today's session?
A write-up.
Yes, articles, newsletter.
Oh, no, myself, no, but I do use my LinkedIn just to share my learnings and knowledge about my field. So LinkedIn is definitely my portfolio.
Okay. Thank you much. Thank
Okay.
you. Okay. Okay, Martha, you've dropped the link to your LinkedIn profile, so that's fine. Likewise, Oyin. There's something you said, and sometimes when I check my mail, especially my spam box, and before I got enlightened about cybersecurity, I see various newsletters and all of that. And I'm like, when did I subscribe to these? How? I think recently I even got a message from someone telling me about something, something, something. And I'm like, I can't remember ever subscribing for this. And I'm always really careful about the kind of information, especially when I want to use ChatGPT and all of that. I'm very, really careful about the kind of information, I post something so that, yeah. I think we should also adopt that because just to protect ourselves too. Okay. So I'm moving into the second phase of today's session. This is the career part. Though earlier, Martha and Oyin spoke about how they started their career as data protection officers and experts. Okay, so Martha, I would like to ask you this question. What relevant certifications for an aspiring data protection officers, what relevant certifications do you need in this field? You need to acquire in this field?
Okay, so I'll give with a start. The first one, we have a certification that is offered in Kenya, but it's actually offered to people in Africa. It's by Strathmore University, a data protection certificate. That's the first place I would like to point someone who wants to get in this field. And the reason for that is because it gives you a feel of the law. It doesn't go into the practice, but it does tell you what the law requires and, just generally the law, data protection. Okay, it talks a lot about Data Protection Act, Kenya, and GDPR. But one thing about our act is that our act borrows a lot from the GDPR. Now, if you're seeking to advance, or for cybersecurity, the first place I would point somebody is Junior Cybersecurity Analyst Path by Cisco. It gives you, again, just a general feel of what cybersecurity is and what it entails. In case you want to go into now the advanced certificate, anything IAPP will help. International Association of Privacy Professionals. So starting with the very common one is the CIPP, Europe. Okay, that one takes you through the GDPR. And then we have now the CIPM, which is my personal favorite. It's a very practical, it gives you the practice of privacy management generally. So the whole privacy life cycle during the access stage, what do you do? What are the actions? The DPIAs, the transfer impact analysis assessments, the AI impact assessments, and then now it goes to assess, sustain, protect. What are the actions you need to do under protect? Protect, the aspect of protect and the privacy life cycle is very tech oriented. So there will be a lot of tech strategies coming into play. And then now we're going to sustain now the monitoring, the auditing, and then we go to responding. What do you need to respond to? We respond to data subject requests, to respond to notifications by the Data Protection Authority. Incident response is also part of the response. So that one gives you a very practical feel. Okay, an advanced one, we have the CIPT, very technological. That one talks of privacy enhancing technologies, I would say so, but I haven't gotten into the material. So in case you want to go into privacy, that is what I would advise. But before you get into all those advanced certifications, consider the boot camps, the webinars, the short courses that are offered by people in the industry. Sometimes we have people in the industry coming together to offer us a short course on this and these. Consider familiarizing yourself with also frameworks like the ISO 27701. Sometimes you can even just do some private personal study. But if you're trying to figure out if that's the path for you, start with the basic certifications before you go into the advanced certifications. That's general advice I would give.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to ask you this question also. When I wanted to start learning about data protection, somebody recommended the Certified Data Protection Officer course from PCB. Was that too advanced for me, or is that too advanced for me rather? Do I need to take some other introductory courses, as you said?
Are you in cyber? I believe you're in cybersecurity, right?
Yes.
So you've already started your tech journey.
Yes, I have.
Then that's a course I would recommend. I haven't looked at it per se, but I do know it gets into the GDPR aspect. In case you're in tech, I do believe, especially cybersecurity, you need to understand data protection. So yes, that's something you can take. It's not too advanced for the level you're at now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. We're running up with the session already. I think someone has their hand up. Adini Temitope, you can unmute and ask your question now.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning. I'm so glad to be here. And what actually made me really excited about today's conversation, it was when the other speaker, the lawyer, was talking about responsible AI and the impending doom and the role of responsible AI. And I feel like shipping in my thoughts because of recent, I've been taking a course on responsible AI and how AI can work for businesses and brand on Data Camp. I'm taking this course as a brand designer and a product designer who has always been curious about AI. I've always been curious about how it works, how it affects our lives, and what it means for the future. Because it has gotten to a point where it's eating up into our mental state of mind, and people don't know. I'll always call my brain the brain boss, because if anything happens to it, let's say it's relationship wise, friendship wise, finance wise, I might not be able to function properly. So with that, I've been able to use AI, and I've realized that AI actually gives you back what you give it. It's like garbage in, garbage out. It's what you give it that it gives back to you. This boils down to prompts. People just say things. And let's take, for example, a country where we still have that accent issue, because even from me speaking, definitely I have an accent from somewhere. And then AI is really unable to recognize most things I say, most of my facial expression, if I'm using one that is the open one. And then there is always this bias in AI, which most people don't know. And the fact that we are always constantly giving away data, but we don't know how it's used or who is even profiting from it. You are just typing things, just feeding it, and you don't even know where all this information is going. And one thing I believe is, just because something is free doesn't mean it's always going to be free. And for most people who don't know much about AI, they will always stand on the queue that supports the fact that, or anytime AI can just disrupt your job, you can just go jobless. I feel I'll always narrate it to the fact that AI is like a horse, although we don't know how far this horse can go at the moment, because it's already here and people don't know. It's everywhere. It's in our phones, jobs, even mental space of mind. Everybody is using it. Even some people have turned to AI as their therapist now, which can be good for them at the moment, but is highly dangerous because AI doesn't reason like humans. It's answering you based on data that it has processed from other people typing exactly the same thing as you, and probably a therapist somewhere to type in what it thinks and the AI starts processing it. So I feel it's high time we start knowing that it is not what it is. It is not as automatic as we think it is. AI is still collecting data. It's collecting data from everywhere. And it's how biased we are being with this data we are giving it. Because there's bias against race, there's bias against gender, geography. Like AI, people should make AI understand how to make decisions. You don't just hand over the whole power to it. When you're giving it something, you don't just break it down in that. And I'll put it, okay, the person that said something before mentioned self-confidence. Yeah. When you say things in a low self-esteem state of mind, when you say things in a manner that even for you, when you process it, you know you are sounding in a condescending manner against yourself. AI takes it up like that. It processes what you're saying. So I won't be surprised if people feel, oh, I can always be alone. I'm saying this from the introvert point of view. I can always be alone, but yeah, I have AI because I really studied AI to the point that I have a personal AI assistant that I talk to, brainstorm, and yeah, it's always like having a normal conversation with a human. That's how me and this AI talk here. But then I realized that you are only giving me back what I'm giving you. My input is my output. So it's not like you're actually replacing anything. You have just run around as my creative assistant to gather information from every angles. Every single humans like me that have typed something, you're gathering the information and you're delivering it right back to me according to what I've asked you, which is prompts. So when you hear people talk about prompts, it's the data you're giving it. Now, from our own side, we are not giving it the right data. It's just like us running to something that we think is a solution. Pim, pim, pim. Okay, how do I run this? Okay, we run this way. We are not being responsible towards AI. We are not giving it what it should understand and able to make decisions. And hopefully, am hoping that when responsible AI should get to the point that when AI causes harm, there must be consequences. It's not just the end part when it will reply that, oh, don't do this, or if you feel you're about to do this, reach out to this suicide protection. Why is there not a router immediately for that kind of data that's just been processed? Why is it that when someone says something like, oh, how do I out this person, there is not like a router immediately processing that information from where it comes from and sending it to the right quarters? Probably if there will be like a feedback correction to that person, or there will be some kind of places where that information will go to before AI start processing any other response. Because this whole thing, yeah, this is my final thought. Because taking this reliable AI course has opened my eyes even more. AI is a tool, but like any other tool, it depends on who builds it and how it's used. If we don't take an active role with our data, and
Yeah.
probably people that don't really understand much about it, we need to start telling them.
Yes.
Let's start with Facebook. There's a lot of misinformation on that app. The few people that has knowledge of DeepSeek, Gemini, Midjourney, Runway, Night Cafe, all these AIs, they are using it
Yes.
wrongly. They are using it to pass across the wrong information just for clickbait. So I feel it's high time we take active roles and do more education on AI, because most people don't even know how dangerous AI can be. They are only saying, I asked AI this, it did this, I was able to do this. That's not just it. We are actually processing a doom. And if we don't take control, if we don't take the wheels, AI might drive us to a destination that won't favor anybody. So that's
Everybody.
my contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Temitope. Please, can you drop the link to that course just in case there are people here that want to take the course, and so we can also learn about the aspect of AI. I think this is a very, very important aspect. This aspect you highlighted is very, 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 very important, and I also learned from this. Are you in the She Code Africa community? Okay, yeah, in She Code Africa, just to okay. You can just drop it in the chat. We have another question before we round up. And Rema, can you quickly ask your question, make it brief, and thank you so much.
You're welcome. Hi, Mike. So I can't see Onye on the call anymore. Can you confirm? Because one of my questions is specifically for him.
Okay, can you drop it in the chat? I'll forward it to him.
Okay,
Or
okay.
and drop it in the chat. You can also connect with him on LinkedIn. I'll forward the question to him.
Okay, all right, I will. So my other question, that means I have Martha to answer my questions. As a data subject, how do I handle or manage entities that require or request information I deem personal? That's my personal identifiable information. To give an example, when I'm registering for a webinar, for instance, let's say on Eventbrite, some event organizers request information aside email. So email, yes, it's regular. You're to communicate with me, probably sign me up on your newsletter, send me the event link and all of that. And then they also ask questions, job title, companies. I get that they need this data for their metrics and other things. But my issue is sometimes they request things like phone number. I'm yet to understand the relevance of phone number when I'm trying to, and it's usually a required field. So you can't skip the field and you can't type in a number that it's not an accurate number unless you're just trying to maybe type gibberish. My point is, how do we navigate this? I want to, so I'm on an upskilling journey. So these are webinars that I'm interested in. These are conversations I'm interested in joining. So I don't want to opt out of the conversation. And at the same time, I don't want to give out information that I deem personal. How can I, as a data subject, navigate this? Thank you.
Okay, so the unfortunate bit here, being the one that is set to consume what they're offering, sometimes you tend to not have so many options, especially in the case where you're entering your data and it's marked like you have to enter. So what I would advise, okay, yes, you'll have to give the phone number, but for your email, make sure the email you're giving out is not your regular email that you have on your bank accounts, your phone numbers, let it be a separate email for search. In case you can't change your number, if you can get another number, it would be okay just to have it for search entries. But in case it's marked mandatory, just have an email or a phone number that you only give for these webinars. These are emails or phone numbers that are not attached to your most important assets or things like bank accounts, your email that is on your fintech apps, all that. That's the advice I'd give, because again, sometimes we lack an option, especially when you're the consumer. If it's in a case of maybe an organization or something, and it's something you're entering manually, you can always choose not to enter one, just go with one. That's the advice I'd give as of now, because then again, getting them to change something marked mandatory, it's a long order. It will take too much time, and they may not even get it marked as non-mandatory.
Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much. I'm going to implement these tips that you've given to me to protect myself. Sorry, Emike, I know that we're short of time, but I have just one more very important question to ask.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I know that the information and conversations we have with these Gen AI tools are, reviewed for their training as their data sets and all of that. How can we protect maybe our sense, because PII, personal identifiable information, the sensitive and non-sensitive data, how can we better protect ourselves when we are chatting or using this Gen AI tools? But sometimes maybe you're drafting a copy or copywriting or doing anything, somehow along the line, some of your information may make its way, to the chats. Obviously, you'd be the one to enter it, but how else can we protect ourselves? Also, I just want to understand if anyone here knows how it works on the back end, how our information works on the back end, and how we can just protect ourselves. Thank you.
Actually, I believe one of the biggest challenges we have with AI so far is that last aspect you mentioned, the aspect of the explainability. AI comes with a black box whereby you don't really know how it's processing your data or how it's coming up with the decisions that it's coming up with. So that is a challenge that is there. And for AI to be explainable, that starts from the aspect of design, way from the start. The technology they use has to be explainable technology that encompasses the aspect of explainability so that you're able to know how to use how AI is making decisions, or rather how AI is giving you an output. So the worst part, when you're the user, you may not really know it, but the person designing it, because this is an aspect that has to be part of the AI from the development stage. Now, the other question on PII, I'll just go. I think I'll just go straight on this. Reduce your dependence on AI. I would say that reduce the data you're feeding AI. If you're asking a question, don't go with too much details, or better yet, use fictitious PII if you must feed it PII. Avoid feeding it document, be it company or your personal documents. And then the other thing, especially with ChatGPT, you can switch off that history thing. When you go to the settings, there's a part where you can just switch off the whole aspect of, I forgot that setting, but it's something I work with. Oh, and also the other thing, I know when you talk about AI, we really major on these LLMs taking a ChatGPT and all, but also remember, even social media apps like LinkedIn are also using your data to train AI. So please go to your, and that feature came in last year, if I'm not wrong. Go to your setting, and it came in pre-marked actually. Go to your setting and turn that off. Look at your social media settings. Most of the data that is being used to train these models, some of it is actually scrapped from the internet. So wherever you have personal data, go switch it up. Or anywhere that there is a setting that you can limit the data of yours, the users of that data that you're sharing, just go there, put it off. Yeah, I believe that's the only way to limit PII, also limit what you're feeding these LLM or these models generally. Did I answer your question, Rema?
Yes, you did, and provided lots of insight. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rema. Rema, Martha is also in the community, and Martha, if you don't mind, we would like to maybe have like a mini workshop later on in the year or in the month, and talk about this extensively, and so that I'm actually really learning a lot from this session. And one thing you said was that you should have different emails, right? So definitely, I think that's a very, very important part, because honestly, I think I have this burden of, having different emails. You have this email for this, you have this email for that, you have this account for this, and likewise passwords. But you just mentioned something. Sometimes I'm quite scared that, God forbid, what if, because, being a cybersecurity professional, you have to be ahead. And sometimes, you might get tested and people be asking you, people might likely, what were you doing? And you're supposed to be ahead of them. But, that's why we have webinars like this, and, to be able to learn from each other, to be able to see the deeper aspect of this part. And honestly, I'm really, really excited, and I'm so happy about this session. Martha, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm learning a lot. And yeah, as I said, we're going to have another session in the community. This is going to be a closed session, and you're going to, if you don't mind, help us. You can also help us onboard 1 or 2 people that will also, teach us more about data, our data privacy rights, and also how to protect ourselves. Rema, we have a question, and do you have something to say?
Okay, yes, please. It's not a question this time. Don't worry. Don't worry. I know that we're short of time, but I just
Yeah.
want to reiterate what you said about this. This session has been so eye-opening, and seconded to I second your idea for a separate workshop where we just have an in-house conversation and Martha, walks us through. And it's going to be okay. No, it's going to. I'm suggesting it's very interactive. Where our ladies, we say this and then Martha clarifies us. Like we just swap knowledge basically, because
Okay.
these are eye-opening insights that she has dropped. So another
Okay.
thing I wanted to say, since some of us here are also in cybersecurity, I feel validated in my paranoia, if that makes sense. When she mentions the having different emails and phone numbers, it makes me feel so good, because even before I veered into cybersecurity, I've been that way. So this is just an avenue for me to in some way to justify my paranoia. It makes sense. It's one of the things that drew me to this path. My meticulosity and my paranoia, I have justification for it now. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Welcome. And I'm so happy. Actually, I'm open to the idea of the workshop.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, Sheena, this session is recorded, and I think you'll get the recording in your mail after the session. Okay. So we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you so much for honoring this invitation. Thank you so much for giving us this insight. We really appreciate. Thank you so much, Aisha, for being my co-host this session. Thank you so much. Thank you, Temitope, for the insight you dropped and the course. Please kindly chat me up on Slack. Rema, I think you chatted me up on Slack too, but please drop a message so we can start facilitating another session. Ariola, thank you so much for attending to this session. Thank you, Ayomide. Thank you, Dad. Thank you. Sorry if I don't pronounce your name correctly. Thank you, Pan Glenn. Thank you, Dorcas. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Nabila. Thank you, Amarachi. And thank you, Sheena, for today's session. I really appreciate. Thanks for joining. And if you have any questions, please, Martha has dropped the link to our LinkedIn profile. Likewise, the other speaker, though he left, he had something to quickly attend to. Please kindly connect with them on LinkedIn. Martha drops insights at least almost every day. When I go to LinkedIn, I'm always seeing something that Martha has dropped on LinkedIn, and it will really help you a lot in your cybersecurity journey. It will really help you a lot. So please connect with Martha. She's also on Slack. Connect with her, and to get this dose of knowledge. I don't know if I use the right word. So thank you so much, everyone. I'll be looking forward to see you in the next workshop and the next session. And it's going to be very, very interactive, as Rema said. So please come with your questions. And for the next session, I would advise that Temitope dropped a link to a course. Please, you can go and take that course so that the next session would not just be, oh, we're asking the speakers. We're going to have maybe breakout sessions and we'll be talking about these things extensively. Thank you so much for attending to this session, everyone. Thank you. My name is Amy K. Sugi once again. Oh, the link to my LinkedIn profile. Please just search for me on LinkedIn. You'll find me. Thank you. My name on LinkedIn is Amy K. Sugi. So you just search for me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, everyone. We've come to a close of today's session. I really appreciate, and see you in the next session. Thank you, Martha. Have a nice day. Okay, someone said, can she get the link to the course? Temitope, please, are you in the cybersecurity channel? If you are, please, can you just drop the link to the course in the cybersecurity journey? Okay, but can you chat me on Slack if that's fine? Okay, please chat me on Slack. But Nabila, please quickly go through the chat before we end the session. She already dropped the this thing. Data come to learn about. Okay. Okay, she says she cannot find the link. Okay, when she chats me on Slack, I'll let you know. Okay, so thank you so much, everyone. Have a nice day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, Martha. Bye.
Everyone.